Audio Jungle.
Well, it has been a pretty busy time in sports. You got the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs going on. NFL draft was last week. This week is the Kentucky Derby. And in Oklahoma high school sports, we have baseball playoffs and state tournaments, track, golf, tennis. Seasons are winding down. And with all that going on, I figured who better to bring on than number one sports fan. And I use that in the biggest air quotes possible because my guest this week for a special Mother's Day edition of Spoken Freely is my beautiful mama dearest, Beth Brockenbush. And Mom, thank you so much for doing this. I guess first and foremost, and if you can say this without laughing too hard, what is your relationship with sports? What was your relationships growing up with sports?
Okay, well, growing up with sports, very little relationship there at all. As a child, I hated PE. I hated sports. The only thing I was any good at was the flexed arm hang, because if they could hang me up on that bar, I was as big around as my pinky finger and I weighed next to nothing. And I held a record 1 minute and 11 seconds just hanging there on the bar.
Was that your, do you think, is that your like physical, is that your physical accomplishment?
Yes, most definitely. For elementary school, especially. And then of course I did nothing athletic in junior high at all, except get the bejesus kicked out of me in PE class by Trisha Garrett, who apparently was a really good soccer player. And somebody said, Beth, go steal the soccer ball from Trisha. And I went, okay. And you know, I was pretty gullible and I was really bad at soccer. And she was apparently really, really good. You know, so not a big fan of sports. And then I was in the band. So
that's right. So you went to every Lamar.
I can say game. I went to every Lamar High School football game, and it's Lamar High School in Arlington.
There you go. Well,
and go Vikes.
Yeah.
And so as a band member, I was at all the football games. Could I explain football to you? No, I could not, because I didn't really watch the games.
Right.
So again, next to no relationship. And then I met your father. Wait, I met your father. And I was working for a nonprofit, and we were given some baseball tickets. And so I was able to take him to a Texas Ranger baseball game. And these tickets that we were given, we were sitting like right behind first plate. I remember we could have thrown popcorn and hit the first baseman on the back of the neck if we had wanted to. And I'm going to get it wrong, it might have been Bichelle. So at the original Texas Ranger Stadium, he thought I must have been the hugest baseball fan and that I was amazing. And I got these awesome tickets and I acted enthused and interested. Really, I was enthused and interested in your daddy. And we just had the best time. And from then on, you know, he's the biggest sports nut. And then I gave birth to a sports nut. And so my sports relationship is mostly through you and your dad.
I think
enjoying sports through your eyes.
Yeah. And that's and honestly, I think that's where you and my wife are Hannah are a lot alike, in that you guys, you know, put up with our baloney on a regular basis, but also you encourage it to a certain extent. And you know, Hannah I've often like almost apologized for my sports nerdiness to Hannah, and she goes, why would you apologize for something you're passionate about? Go be
exactly
exactly.
It is so fun to us. And for those listeners out there, you know, parents are always talking about what their kids' first words were other than mama and daddy. I'm pretty sure your first word was ball.
Yeah,
ball.
And then when my cousin was born, shout out to Caitlin, I think I asked, can baby play baseball?
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
they be playing baseball with me? Because I wanted a
yeah,
friend, I wanted a brother. No
yeah.
brothers, sadly, still.
No, no.
Uh,
So,
but
yes.
I would
And
say I did hear you mentioned that your relationship with sports wasn't much in terms of the physical realm. I heard that later on in your educational adventures, you were quite the bowler there for a while. Is that true?
okay, when I was in college, we were able to take bowling as a PE. And that seemed right up my alley. I don't really care to sweat. And certainly I had taken beginners tennis 2 semesters in a row because I was so bad the first semester. Um, and you sweat quite a lot in tennis. And so bowling seemed right up my alley, so to speak. It was in the basement of the student union building, so a convenient walk from our dorm. And I was not a stellar bowler, but I was an enthusiastic bowler. And I remember getting so excited one time. I made a strike and I was so excited. I was like, Dr. Carafa, I made a strike. And in his Arkansas accent, he goes, even a blind hog picks up an acorn every now and then. I was just like, gee, thanks.
That's what you want to hear when you've had like your
Exactly what I
greatest
wanted to hear.
moments.
And that year, when it came around time for Thanksgiving, PE bowling class was going to be my last class before I left town to go home. And it was really going to kind of delay me going home. I can't remember how substantially. So it's like if you had perfect attendance, you could get an A in the class if your bowling record was also, showed fair improvement, or you could just get a pass in the class. So I consulted with him. What do you think? Should I stay and attend bowling? He's like, Beth, just go home and enjoy your family. In other words, there was no way I was going to make an A in that class.
Well, gold star for honesty there, I guess.
Yes. Good old Dr. Carafa. But I enjoyed it. And when I was in high school, a friend and I took ice skating lessons, and we greatly enjoyed ice skating lessons together at the local mall. And in high school, I went snow skiing each spring with my youth group. And I enjoyed snow skiing. You sweat a lot less in your winter sports.
Yeah,
And
too
so
cold.
I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed snow skiing. I enjoyed that there was not a score and there was nobody, yelling at me from the sidelines or something.
Right. Yeah. One thing I did want to bring up, and this kind of delves a little bit more into the human interest side of it too, is I feel like, as time has gone on, you become more of a sports fan in terms of, like you said, you take part in what, dad takes part in, but also, let's call a spade as the nest emptied and you guys got more opportunities to go to, games. You became more of a fan, but also I think one thing that has become a big deal is you're a proud Baylor Bear alumni, and they have had just an insane run in athletics. And when you consider where they were, and this is why I bring up the human interest side, is you consider where they were, in basketball with the Dave Bliss, Patrick Dennehy, scandal, which even if you don't follow sports, I think a lot of people, especially Baylor alum, are familiar with that. And then, of course, the Art Briles situation, 5 years ago, to have your alma mater win a Big 12 football championship and a national championship in men's basketball in the same year. It's pretty good time to be a Baylor Bear. I mean, what has that meant to you and to that community?
To me, it has meant that I need to go to Rally House and keep my Baylor gear up to date and make sure it's not faded. And I iron my Baylor t-shirt before I wear it to work. So I look really crisp and good. And it also means someone usually has to say, oh, wow, are you going to watch the Bears this weekend? And I go, oh, are we playing? And then I might walk in and out of the room while it's on TV. But, I'm just, My favorite sports to watch are probably basketball and baseball. I'm not big on the contact sports, not big on watching people beat each other up. And whether it's sanctioned or not sanctioned in that particular sport. But also I like them with less gear on. You can see their facial expressions on a basketball court. You can see them while they're playing and how they're feeling. And that to me is more exciting than trying to guess how the football players are feeling, because they have too much equipment on to read body language. And you just get a lot more of that on the basketball court. So incidentally, some of the things that I've enjoyed in the last few years is your dad and I going to our local university, the University of Texas at Arlington, and watching basketball there, because we can get good seats and you can really see the players and enjoy the excitement. And the student body is fun. So honestly, I have attended more UTA games than I have. As far as I think I attended one Baylor game when I was a Bear myself. But and of course your daddy takes me to the baseball games, and the Jumbotron helps a lot to see their faces.
Yeah.
But typically you're sitting way up high at a professional stadium. Anyway, we have on occasion walked over and sat where we could see the UTA baseball being played, because we could walk there from our house. And quite honestly, just out of curiosity, we walked the dogs over one time to the intramural fields to watch the Indian students playing cricket. And they played out there in the empty intramural fields so much that they finally built them a cricket pitch. And they have a lovely cricket pitch. And we sat up on the hill with the dogs watching cricket and asking questions of the guy who, I don't know if you can call it the outfield, playing in the outfield. Yeah. And just educating myself on a new sport.
It's honestly a pretty awesome sport to watch. And I have always said that regardless of the sport, whether I'm into it or not, if you and we're recording this on Friday night, and ahead of time I'm going to be covering tennis for the first time. I watch plenty of tennis, but I'm covering our local university. The Cameron tennis team is in the Division II NCAA tournament and hosting a big regional tomorrow. And I've always said that regardless of the sport, if it's played at a good enough level and a good enough pace, I am going to be that guy. I always say it's kind of the way that I approached UFC or like mixed martial arts when I was in college. Is like my friend would take me to Buffalo Wild Wings. I go, who am I rooting for? How much am I supposed to dislike the other guy? And tell me when we win. Like that, like I'll figure the rest out.
Yeah.
We'll fill in the need.
High school sports are like that, because those kids are playing their hearts out. And you're like, I don't even know this kid. We're not related. He doesn't live on my street. But oh my gosh, he's playing so hard. You just gotta cheer for him.
It's half the reason why I enjoy what I do. Some of my favorite high school sporting events involve kids that are never going to go play on college, go play on the college level. And as we talk about high school sports, it brings me to a couple of rapid fire questions. Okay. First,
ready.
What would you say is your most memorable sporting event or sporting memory of me growing up?
Of you growing up? Gosh, I don't remember.
So many.
Okay, I don't remember whether I was there when you were hit in the face with the ball, but you were hit by a baseball, playing baseball. How old were you when you got hit in the face?
That would have been, I believe, 9. And
okay, you were temporarily traumatized by that. You did not want to go up to bat. You got very nervous. I felt like I really engaged as a parent at that point, because I did not want you to be afraid of something you had been enjoying so much since T-ball. And I did not want to see you step away from that sport because of that one incident. And we took a picture of you with your black eye.
Well, that was, I think, a separate incident.
Might have been. Might have
Because
been.
yeah, when I was 9, I took a pitch to the face from, for context, Kevin Winter, who went on to play, I think, a
Oh,
year of college baseball for Baylor.
yeah.
And yeah, insanely good baseball player who was probably winging it at like 50 miles an hour at age 9, and hit me right in the cheek. And I did not want to face a fast pitcher for a few
Yeah.
weeks. And then, yeah, later on, I think junior high, I took a bad ground ball to the face while Dad was taking his CPA classes, and he comes to the game like, he goes, "What happened to your face?" And I was like, "This is what happens when you're not here. Chaos rules."
Yeah. So I can,
That's awesome. I
yeah, I
appreciate.
mostly felt like I was just, the mom in the stands clapping and going, yay, hit the ball, yay, catch the ball.
I remember later on in like select league, you bringing like noisemakers to annoy like an especially noisy fan base. You were like, "No, we are going to out annoy them," and you showed up with
They
Lay's.
shall not be named on this podcast,
Right,
but yes,
yes.
and I would do it again.
Yeah.
I would do it again.
And okay, other rapid fire question. Who would you say are your top 3 favorite athletes and why?
Ooh, my top 3. Okay, so for the record, sometimes at work, we're allowed to wear a sports jersey if we're celebrating a certain, yay, it's opening day or whatever. Or our team is, going far. I refuse to buy a sports jersey for somebody who is currently playing and may still commit a felony or do something else or get traded to a team that I don't care for. And so Nolan Ryan, I've got his jersey, and I have a Roger Staubach jersey. Feel like they're safe, they're legendary, they were faithful. And for that same reason, I would wear a Dirk Nowitzki if I were to have a Mavs jersey, because, oh my gosh, talk about being faithful to his team and not chasing the dollar.
Yeah.
And playing his heart out and loving his job.
People can't
So
see
I
it.
would say those
Yeah.
top 3. So looky there. Hey, I hit 3 sports.
There you go. Yeah. And it's funny, people can't see it, but right behind the computer right here in hanging up in our game room is my Dirk Nowitzki Finals MVP poster. It's funny that you mentioned Nolan, and I figured you would mention Nolan. And I don't want this to turn into the
Probably showing my age by naming
no, I don't want this to
Nolan Ryan.
I don't want this to turn into a mother pestering her son with very motherly questions podcast. But when my wife and I have talked about baby names, I have like these names in my head that I'm like, oh, I've grown up loving this name or that name. And then I realize,
and you're going to name your kid Staubach.
I realized that my sports psyche has my sports fandom has so messed up my psyche that the most manliest names in my like vocabulary are all of my sports idols growing up. And I'm like,
sure.
I'm like, well, I'm gonna name my son Troy or Nolan. And I was like, because Troy Aikman was my dude, and Nolan was the dude.
It'd be weird if the kid's first name was Staubach or Gretzky. Yeah. You got to kind of go with a name that sounds like a first.
I mean, Nowitzki Brockenbush kind of works, the Germanness.
Well, it kind of does.
Honestly, I mean, so
your dad would come up with some weird nickname for him.
Well, the thing, yeah. He would,
he
would all be initials, yeah. And of course, I have a cousin who named his dog Dirk. And you think about how you want to talk about the legacy of certain things. How many kids in the Dallas area, including people we know, have named their kid Luca in the past 4 years?
Oh my!
And
likewise, we've known a lot of kids named Nolan and Ryan.
And there's the joke here in Oklahoma after Baker Mayfield won the Heisman is somebody said, here's a second grade roll call in 6 years. It's like, all right, Baker, Jessica, Baker. Yeah. And then finally, I bring this up as like kind of my final point, because as I mentioned, you've gotten to go to some pretty cool events. I don't want to turn this into a broadcast, but you did get a chance to go to a dadgum Super Bowl,
We did.
which and you've been to Fenway, which I don't know how you got to do that before I did, but whatever. I'm not mad. But now I lost my train of thought because I'm not mad.
Okay,
And,
well then let me pick it up.
well, I was going to say
Yes.
is this weekend, the Kentucky Derby is happening. I know that is high on your sports bucket list. Is it number one? And if not, what is?
Oh gosh, my personal sports bucket list. You act like I have one.
Doesn't matter.
The Kentucky, it would not have to be the Kentucky Derby, but the 2 times that I have attended horse races and bet on the horses, I had a ball, I have to say. And if I could wear a fancy hat while enjoying myself in that way, and perhaps drinking a mint julep, I would absolutely love it. Although I'd probably be singing the Ascot Gavotte in my head from My Fair Lady. Entirely different horse race, but that would be a hoot and a half. Because I just can't think of something else that you're right. It would have to be the Kentucky Derby or a similar racing experience. And, I think one of the things I enjoyed so much when we were in Ruidoso Downs in New Mexico, and there was hardly anybody there. It's a weekday. Dad and I were on vacation. I got to go down to the railing and watch them parading past with the horses and the trainers and the whatnot. And I came back up to Daddy and I was like on my phone, like I had my first smartphone. I'm looking stuff up on my smartphone. And I was like, that horse is fighting with the rider. He's fighting with the rider. And when he was favored to win, and I was like, no, he's fighting with the rider. Well, what it was the jockey that day was not his usual jockey. And I was like, I can't put my money on him. And I put it on somebody else. And I think I won a whopping $85. But I was so excited because I went based on things I was looking up about them and their trainers, the history of the trainer, and that particular horse, that was not his jockey, and you could tell. I was so proud of myself. I think because placing a bet, and I know that's not something I should encourage the young people of America to do, but placing a bet made me get more engaged with the sport.
It does.
It really was fun.
And we've talking about how kind of your fandom has expanded, or I've seen it expand in the past like 10 years, is one thing that we've done. And I've always joked that for as much as my dad has said, has warned me against gambling addiction and stuff, we as a family bet small amounts, but bet on everything. We have a pool for the March Madness, for the NFL playoffs, for the bowl games. I don't think I've been in a fantasy football league with Dad in a long time, if I have ever. I don't want to give him more money. He's fine. He's doing fine. And but
now he plays fantasy golf of all things. Good grief. Fantasy golf.
Yeah. But yeah, he is, one thing is like you and my wife and my sisters, we all do the March Madness, and you've done pretty well before, and you will tell me, here's my method, and you get really into it, and she'll be like, no, they have 3 seniors, they've been together forever.
I just want to tell you, my method should work better than it does. It should.
Well, you know what? As somebody who covers sports, maybe I should do better than I do. But you know what? Sports doesn't make sense, and that's kind of why I love it. So, Mom, thank you so much for doing this. I love you so, so much.
Oh, I love you too. Okay, can I just say,
Yeah.
Probably one of my most memorable, if you want to call it a sports memory, is when Glenn was an infant, we used to joke, oh, he teased on baseball cards. But y'all, yes, he really did. We would give him the lousy baseball cards, the players that nobody wants, and he would chew on them. And then we would do the old finger sweep to get the bits of baseball cards out of his mouth. And then you just hand him another baseball card because it was better than any of that baby's Lilac toast. You would rather chew on a baseball card.
Yeah.
And you would rather watch sports on a Saturday morning than watch cartoons.
Yeah, while most of my guy friends were chasing girls, I was like, not for me. I'll be watching NFL films.
Oh my gosh, and you did.
Well, I hope you enjoy your Mother's Day weekend. I'm sorry I
Thank
can't be
you.
there, but I will be there in spirit. I wish I had any derby tips for any of you out there. I don't even know who's racing. Honestly, I usually, when in doubt, go with the racer, go with the horse with the best name,
There
or
you
the
go.
coolest colors. So I tell that to Dad all the time. I was like, maybe that's why I never got into golf, is because they don't have organized uniforms.
You look at the record of the trainer.
Yeah, but not Bob Baffert. That is a joke because he is banned right now.
Ah,
And, I don't believe he will be entering any horses at Churchill Downs. Anyways, on that stupid joke, this has been spoken freely. Mom, thank you so much. And to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. To all the sons and daughters out there, tell your mommy you love them, and we will see you.
Audio Jungle.